So with your palms down, raising your right hand perpendicular to your thigh, that's 1. Take your right hand and bring it out shoulder height, that's 2. And then you bring the energy in to your dantian, which is just below your navel, and that's 3. We do the same thing on the left. 4, 5, shoulder height, and sweep the energy in. 6. On 7, we bring our right hand up to our heart and move it around once, that's 7. And then share our heart, bringing your hand back to shoulder, 8. 9, perpendicular, 10, down. And then 11, bringing your left hand up to your heart, making a circle. 12, out, shoulder width, sharing. 13, perpendicular to the thigh. 14, down. So 1, perpendicular to your right, bringing your hand shoulder width. 2, scooping the energy to your dantian. 3. 4 is your left hand perpendicular to your thigh. 5 is reaching out shoulder height. 6, bringing the energy to your dantian. 7, bring your right hand up to your heart with a small circle. 8, sharing that energy. 9, perpendicular to your right thigh. 10, closing. 11, bringing your hand up to your heart, that's your left hand. 12, sharing that heart energy. 13, back to your thigh, perpendicular. 14, closing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. On your own, take your time. And then when you come to a completion, just go ahead and stop when you're ready. So you want to be able to do that with awareness. And a lot of different practices have mantra. So if you're a Buddhist, you can be saying Om Mane Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. And if you're a Christian, you could go, Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so. And if you're neither, Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O, and on that farm he had a dog, E-I-E-I-O. And you want to be able to do it so that you can move your hands through that fluid movement, just like as a habit. So you teach yourself to do it until you can sing and do it at the same time. So we're lazy. I was going to be reminded of that. And according to Buddha, we're lazy, and the way he measures laziness so that you don't take offense by that is laziness is when we are not moving toward our intention, or we forget our intention. So remember, discipline is remembering what we want to do, what matters to us, not just in accomplishing a job, but in our heart area. And so there are 3 types of laziness, and I want you to see which type you might be. So there's one laziness that is prefers comfort. And so when it comes to, waking up early on a Sunday morning and going off in the middle of winter and going off to Mass or whatever, you think I'd rather stay home in my warm bed, that type of, or it's like late at 6 o'clock at night, there's a 6:30 meeting, and you think, I'm really just think I'll stay home tonight. And sometimes that's caring for yourself, but sometimes if you check, it's sort of it's an attachment to comfort. You'd rather be comfortable than to step out of your comfort zone and do what you thought would be meaningful. So we do that, we all do that. That's one type of laziness, attachment to comfort. So I don't know about you, but I'm sure I have that one. Yep. The second one is what we call the laziness of procrastination. We put off doing today for tomorrow. And in some ways, that might not seem to catch up with you, but at one point in your life, that's going to catch up with you when you put off things. So sometimes we think, I'm really going to meditate when it's my vacation. And then when your vacation comes, you think, I think I'll really meditate when it's winter. That's a good time to meditate. And you think, and the winter comes, it's like, I'm going to meditate when it's warmer. And we just keep putting it off, and we never, ever practice meditation. But you can fill in whatever blank you want. But we have to really call ourselves out when we do these things. And how many of you procrastinate? Yeah. Do you remember, did I teach you this already about laziness? Okay. And then the third type of laziness, and probably the most dangerous, is when we put ourselves down, when we have self-doubt, or lots of times people even have self-loathing. You think poorly of yourself. It's called the laziness of discouragement. And the reason it's so dangerous is that if you are doing something and you have this laziness of discouragement, that experience is tied together with that negative sort of experience, and you're not likely to ever engage in that experience another time. It's just it's sort of like you're discouraged. So when it comes up again, you think, I don't want to do that. I'm not a meditator. So you have to look out for laziness of discouragement. We just get discouraged. I meditated 4 times and I'm not enlightened yet. We get discouraged because we don't do it fast enough or quick enough. And we have to learn that things aren't measured by time or things will happen on their own, and to be okay with what happens when it happens, not to get discouraged. Westerners are very discouraged. We want it now, and we want it right, and we want a lot of it. Yeah. So there's 3 types of laziness. The first one was and then procrastination, and then the most dangerous, discouragement. Does that clear? Yeah. And all of these little reminders are really so that we don't decide that in this world that's so uncertain that we're going to kind of hide in a cocoon and keep ourselves safe. That would be the laziness of what? Discouragement. Comfort could be comfort too. You don't want to step out of your safety zone. So you can see that sometimes there are more than one. But when we choose to do that, by choosing that, you keep yourself separate. And then you feel separate then, alone. And we also keep ourselves separate from ourself. So do you see how that works? So by keeping ourselves safe in that cocoon, you're not accomplishing probably your intention. Even though you think you're going to keep yourself safe, you keep yourself separate from yourself and others. It's just not a very fun place to be. Have any of you in your life sort of alienated for a period of time? Sometimes after like a loss, like a deep loss, we need a little time to sort of refresh and renew, and we might just sort of stay back, stay in. But it doesn't actually feel so good. But sometimes we need time. And then we come out. We're social animals. And it doesn't mean you have to, sing and dance and jump around all day long, but it means you need to find people that you feel comfortable in, maybe even who challenge you enough, who will tell you the truth when you're not likely to be telling yourself the truth in a gentle and loving way. So you have this amazing group that I think you can do that for each other. If you're kind of isolating after 1 and 2 and 3 times, Mickey might come over and knock on your door and say, hey, let's go out for a piece of pie. Pie? I don't know if you caught that, but I'm a big pie eater. I like pie. Oh, I like pie. So, there she goes.
Did you hear pie?
She likes pie too. So present moment is the only moment that everything happens. Things don't happen now in the past, do you know what I mean? And things don't happen now in the future. The things that are happening now are happening in this present moment, and you can't even hold it, because as soon as you think present moment, it's the next moment. And it is that ability to really get that. It's that freshness that's always available to stay completely present, moment after moment after moment. And then when you're ready to go to bed at night, go ahead and allow your mind to sort of drift off into place. And after a period of time, teach yourself to stay present in your sleeping life, to stay present to your dreams. It's very useful to learn how to lucid dream. It's a practice, and it's not just a Buddhist practice, it's a practice of sort of recreating, transforming the outcomes of many scenarios. So you might have this place in your dream where something awful always happens. You sort of turn and look at it instead of running away from it and change the outcome. Because you can do that, because we have a mind. So you might not learn how to lucid dream tonight, but you might actually stay aware for a few moments and then off into sleep, which I'm sure you all want to do, because most of you didn't get a good night's sleep last night. So I'm hoping you all will tonight. Are you tired? No?
I had a little nap.
Me too.
I'm waking up now.
Waking up. So it's really important to learn how and practice. That's what they call the practice of mindfulness, staying present in the moment. So mindfulness is not something you get a certificate for. Mindfulness is something that is a mental factor. It's a part of our mind. And when we practice it, what we're doing is watering that mental factor, making it stronger. And when your mindfulness is strong enough, you can concentrate. When I say concentrate, you can hold your mind on an object of meditation, that's a mental object, for long periods of time, starting with 5 minutes without losing it, up to an hour, up to 2 hours and longer. And you're able to sit with that focus, and you're not like leaving your body and it's all uncomfortable. Because you're completely aware of the present moment, you're embodied. You're in your body, relaxed and present. And you can hold that for a very long time. And you practice longer, longer, longer. So, it's good stuff. Present moment, mindfulness. Water it, turns into concentration. It's with concentration that our wisdom can become very clear. So you have to be able to focus your mind. It starts with mindfulness. It's the basis, like the foundation of concentration. When we say concentration, we're talking about these 9 different levels of concentration. And our body has the experience of this very flexible, they call it bliss, but what it is, it's a very supple mind. It's a mind that is experiencing this fluidity, very supple. And it doesn't hurt anywhere in your body. And it's not that you've abandoned your pain, it's that you're completely present with the energy of your body as it moves up and down. And this physical suppleness makes mental suppleness really strong. So we have a lot to learn, yet you start now and you move toward it. And that's the best we can do. And then the other little quote that I wanted to read you, we did this course in the hospital where I live, this mindfulness course, because the staff, on a survey from the HP department, the staff found out that 63% of the staff felt as if they could not handle their anxiety. And in a hospital, that can lead to a lot of mistakes or a lot of injuries. And so the human resource person, the HR person, that's what it is, looked into different things that they could bring their staff. And one of the things they decided to do is to bring in myself and my teacher, Tai Kozin, and we taught this mindfulness class. It's not the same as mindfulness-based stress reduction. It's a sort of a different view. And one of the things we said, as soon as we wish to be happier, we are no longer happy. As soon as we wish to be happier, we are no longer happy. So you're wishing for something in the future. You're not in the present moment. As soon as you do that, you're no longer happy. It's so amazing, because when we're happy, we want to be happier. We want that happiness to last. And as soon as we grasp a hold of it, it's gone. Oh. So unfair. So, anyway, they asked us back at the hospital. We're going to be doing some more work together in the winter, which will be fun. I had a great time. So, I wanted to talk about a couple of things that are truths. Hey, Stellar, I know I made that noise. This is really good incense. If you want this box, this is it. It's in Japanese, it's hard to order. So do you remember these pieces of paper? Good. Good, good, good. Trying to find my glasses, but I bet they're in here. Oh yeah. These glasses are, I don't know, they have holes in the lenses, and then they're very kind of cool, I guess. But look at them, nothing nothing stays in one place, so I have a really hard time. I have trifocals, so it's like, whoa. Okay, here we are. Yay. So we're talking about not cocooning away by staying present. That's a really important thing. And in practice, when we're practicing that, you try to stay in the moment. You try to make the moments as fresh as possible. And let's just say you did that 3 times tomorrow. That's a success. So, you know, there are many moments in a day. I don't know, how many minutes do you suppose are in a day? Does anybody know? 24 hours times 60. 1440. Yeah. So in those moments, there's seconds, aren't they? How fast do you think a moment is? You know, it's like, is it a second or is it a minute? But anyway, there's a lot. And so try to use breath. So breathing in, breathing out, sort of like a fresh start in a certain way. Whatever it takes to cultivate, to sort of water those seeds of freshness, staying present. And so Gina's heard some of this teaching before, but when I asked my teacher, what is essential to wake up? So that's what we want to wake up, because we're sort of asleep in the confusion and ignorance of our mind. It's kind of like we're asleep. What does it take? What's essential to wake up? And he said to me, and I've repeated this many, many times, expect nothing. Appreciate everything. I'm like, wow. That's hard to do. We expect stuff. Like I'm going to go out to my car in the early morning and I expect it to zoom, rum, rum, right? But I'll be knocking on Gina's door if that doesn't happen. Help! My car's not rum, rum, rumming, and I'm not appreciating. And you'll say, expect nothing. Appreciate everything. What was that?
Uber.
Uber. Oh yeah, Uber. Oh. U-B-E-R?
Basically, yeah.
Do they answer at that time?
You bet.
So you're not going to give a ride, huh?
I give a ride.
On the bike?
We'll get there.
Faster, Stellar!
I have a basket for Stella.
Yeah, on my bike I have this, it's curved like this, it's made out of some sort of lightweight steel, and has this really fat rubber thing with a hook. And it allows the dog not to get in front, and also just to sort of stay within this space. Stellar loves it. Yeah, she loves it a lot. Can't take her when it's really hot because it's hard on their feet, but so it's a really great, it's called something like doggy jogger or something. So when you hold your hands out in front of you like this, are you offering or are you receiving? Yeah, when I asked that in Wednesday class, I said, are you offering or are you receiving? The answer was yes. I like that answer very much. So it's both, because you can't offer if there's someone if there's not someone to receive, and you can't receive if there's not someone offering. And that gesture is a circle. It contains both. So, without knowing, somebody could be putting fruit in my hand, or without knowing, I could be offering to you something. So the gesture itself is not one or the other. And that is something to keep in mind. We're talking about things that are true. Things that are true is that they're a whole. They're not dual. They're not one or the other. They're both and all the possibilities. And that's really difficult to get our mind around, even our thinking mind, but to have your heart mind, to just understand that when you're experiencing something, that actually at that very same time, let's say you're experiencing isolation, at that very same time, inclusiveness is in that circle. You just have to find it. Remember, we were going to transform our suffering into freedom. And that truth will help you do that by not being stuck on one of the things, by keeping in mind that there's a bigger picture, sometimes people say, but the picture's not linear. It's not even three-dimensional. It's like four-dimensional. I don't know if there is such a thing, but has anybody seen those machines that you can put something in and it makes a 3D object? I have not seen it. I've only heard about it. It just must be awesome. Like, how does it do that?
At some of the public libraries.
Really?
Sunbury and Forest and really.
Wow. Holograms, yeah. It's just amazing to me. Yeah. So when you're looking at those dot pictures and then the thing jumps out, it's not like a trick of your eyes. It's just that our eyes can't actually, the way we see, oftentimes we can't take it all in. And when I was able to make the jumping out is when my eyes, I think, just sort of rolled back and went sideways, Finally I just gave up and boom, it was like, oh, wow. But it's a more of a being able to relax. It's a good example of letting go in order to receive, so to speak. So this happened in the story of Buddha. So the historical Buddha Siddhartha left the palace of comfort. He was giving up that laziness. And so really in his palace he had everything. And when he left the palace and he went out in search of the answers to things like old age, sickness, and death. What's the point to life if all we're going to do is get sick, grow old, and die? What's the point? And so I'm sure, I know that I asked that question before. What is the point? What's the point to life? have wondered that in points of depression and different things. And what is the point? And so he was in search of those answers. And he sought out the masters of many different faiths. The Vedas was the first thing he studied. And he was able to recite and understand them all to where the teachers couldn't answer his questions. And then he went out and he kept doing that. He learned how to meditate with the masters of meditation and attained all the levels of concentration. But still he didn't have the answers to his question, and his refining in his mind. And after he went through all the masters that were available, he realized that he had to find the answers inside, and he tried some very extreme things like starvation and eating, like not eating and then eating nettles, and just really, and his body became emaciated. And he was nearing a river on the side of a road, and he collapsed and probably would have died. And along came this young woman who was sent out by her family to make offerings to what they called the spirits, the god spirits in the nature. And so she had heavy cream and a bowl of sweet rice. And instead of making her offering, she made the offering to Buddha. And so very slowly she sort of wet his lips with this sweet cream, and soon he was able to sort of start to come to, and he was drinking a little, eating a little, and at one point he was able to sit up, and she very slowly helped him eat all of what she had to offer. And as his body was starting to take in this sustenance, he was able to understand that middle way. And the middle way is something we teach in Buddhism, where things aren't this or that. There's a middle way. And that is sort of like when you have the combination of what we say method practices and wisdom. When you have the combination of compassion and wisdom. So you can't have one without the other. If you don't have wisdom, your compassion might be very crazy. So that's when you overextend, or you do things that are way beyond your capacity. And that's crazy compassion. Doesn't work, you can't sustain it. So you need wisdom to understand your capacity and also the capacity of those that you're serving. And so he was very tuned in to paying attention, and his mind was allowing him to see the middle way, that those extremes of starvation and doing all these different things really weren't how he was going to reach the understanding that he was seeking. And so he proceeded then to take in more sustenance and then sit under a tree for a very long time and just sort of take in all that he had learned. And they say that he awakened. And when they say he awakened, he was able to wake up from the sleep of not knowing, not understanding. And he had complete clarity of mind and body. And at that point, this young woman from the town, whose name was Sugata, that simple act of kindness to me, and if you think about it, how much Buddhism has traveled to the West and how many people have received, really that simple act of kindness sort of changed the history of what was possible for all of us. Certainly changed my history, and in that changing your history. So I think we underestimate the kindness, the small, simple acts of kindness that we all do. So when I extend a simple act of kindness to Craig, for instance, when Craig moves on to his next event, he may extend, or within the experience of kindness, his open-heartedness may reach one person, two persons, three persons, we don't know. And what happens is those three people then may extend out to two more people. And it just goes like that. So one small act of kindness, when we step out of our comfort zone and actually do what in the present moment seems right, instead of what our parents set us off to do, just making that wisdom discernment, this would be far more helpful, more beneficial if I were to give this food to this man who was dirty and collapsed, and his hair was all knotted, and she had no idea. But she actually was helping the Buddha awaken. So how about that? You just don't know. And yeah, celebrate, yay, celebrate. So Buddha, when he sat in that stillness, what did he find out? And he found out simply three truths. Actually, there's probably more than that, but three things that sort of stand out. And the first thing, so Gina asked, what is true? Remember? And it's what all of us find to be true. And then there's some things that are always true. So you might think, well, gravity is true. So far, right? I don't know if there's any change in the gravitational pull on Earth, but probably will change. But everything changes.
Is that the first truth?
The first truth is everything changes. Everything changes. The good things change, the bad things change. When you're sick, yoo-hoo, this changes, right? Might get worse. Ooh. Might get better. Ooh. And so we just need to remember that. Would have been really ridiculous as an infant if we got angry or sort of upset. That would have been it, right? We just didn't get our way and we went into a tantrum, and that was how we were the rest of our lives, right? Well, we're not like that, and we've changed so many times. Just think of all the food you've eaten since you were born. It's just like amazing. Changing, always changing, moment by moment. And if you can get behind that fluidity, you're not hitting the world in opposition. You're flowing parallel to the truths, remembering everything changes. It's very helpful. And try not to fight it, because we don't want some things to change. We don't want the people we love to leave us, but they will. Everything changes. And if we fight that, if we refuse to hear it, like Craig was thinking his mom doesn't want to hear that, she'll be leaving, it doesn't actually bide well. But when you sort of work toward living in alignment with these truths, your life will be what we call the unburdened way, or the unobstructed way, or the undisturbed way. And by the way, we mean path. So we will have a smooth path. It won't be without bumps, but it will be far more smooth if we learn to live and align with these truths. And the second one is that everything is contingent on something else. Nothing just comes into existence without causes and conditions. We don't just have something. Other things had to come together. And so when you think about nothing changes, so that's really important. So our mind stream is a continuum. It's energy, you can't see it, it's formless. Moment by moment, our mind stream is like a continuum. And when we reach the end of our life, that mind will continue into the next body. If you go backward, where was your mind the moment of your conception? What was it the moment before? It was the last moment of your previous life. And when you start to see that it really, you start to understand why we believe in past and future lives, because it's impossible for things to just stop. You know, energy just doesn't poof out. It changes into some other energy or changes into matter, but it won't disappear. It always is changing. And then when we understand that everything is interdependent, we start to take responsibility for our own actions. My actions matter. And that helps you. What you say matters. So remember when we read the mindfulness trainings, what would it be like if you only used your speech to benefit? And you chose to not speak unless you had that sort of basis. I'm not going to talk unless it's going to be of benefit. It's because you understand everything is interrelated, and what you do will affect other people. Even if you think in the privacy of my own house, I'm just going to swear and stomp around, and it might be that might be the safest place for that, yet it does matter. That little drop, even in your own house, somehow is felt by others. So we just keeping that in mind. And then the last thing is that discomfort, dissatisfaction is inevitable. It's inevitable. But suffering is optional. We are going to be uncomfortable. We can just know that. And so when we are uncomfortable, we're not so like shocked. Oh, I mean, didn't all of you at some point today and probably right now experience discomfort? You know, we're sitting. We haven't moved around too much. We've eaten wonderful food, but there's discomfort sometimes. Of course there is. So not to be shocked by that, not to prefer comfort and avoid discomfort. It's inevitable. It's just inevitable. I mean, really, if you think about it, think of a young baby. They experience discomfort. They experience discomfort upon birth. Can you imagine this like contained unit, and then all of a sudden, you're out in the world. Everything is rough and bright and loud. Yeah, we start with discomfort. It's inevitable. But if you then have discomfort and then you like pour salt into the wound, then you have suffering. You're fighting your discomfort. So you have to just there's days when it may be really a lot of discomfort, but everything changes. It might get worse, it might get better, but we're not shocked. The body is in a state of deterioration. And even if you exercise and eat all the right things, it's still in the state of deterioration, moment by moment, changing. At some point we may have been getting more vital, but I think we've passed that peak. And we're on the downhill slope at this point. And it is to our advantage to sort of live with that. Not give up, don't give up hope at all, but not fighting, not resisting what is true. So those three things, everything changes, everything's interrelated, woven, and discomfort, dissatisfaction is inevitable. Suffering is optional. And it doesn't mean if you are suffering you were bad, right? No, of course not. But you can you can buoy yourself up by remembering, oh yeah, what was I thinking? Discomfort, it's inevitable. How are you with that?
You said discomfort is inevitable. Then first you said, I think, dissatisfaction.
Discomfort or dissatisfaction, they call that dukkha. So you'll see that word in the Pali, it's a Pali word, dukkha. It's been translated oftentimes into suffering, but it's a better and closer translation, discomfort, dissatisfaction. That is inevitable. We aren't going to be satisfied or comfortable all the time. But whether or not we suffer is our choice. We can choose differently. We can choose. So from my point of view, the second one, the fact that we're interrelated, is the most important. Really is. If you work on that one, just really taking responsibility for your actions of body, speech, and mind, and really believing that. I mean, you don't have to believe it, but it's been my advantage to believe that. If I believe that, my relationships with others have more connection. And that's one of the things that we were talking about on this weekend, to pause, reflect, and connect. Your connection with others is far greater when you understand how interrelated you are. You can't actually separate yourself from others. You can't actually do that. We are woven together, interconnected through our kindness and through the kindness of others. Through that kindness, that human kindness, we are connected. And when we sort of work in that way, you will feel this loving relationship. It orients us. Having that understanding orients you. Like on a map, when you put an X, you are here. Having that understanding of things being interconnected orients you to your relationships. So I am related to you. We might not be blood relatives, but we're related. We're interrelated. That's so vital. And so I think you can see how it makes your relationships really connect, blossom. It brings you what you're looking for, your deepest yearning for loving connection, just by understanding that one truth. And in our lifetime, I liked this analogy, so I'm going to use it again. We are moving from dial-up to Wi-Fi. So we were born with a belly button. Yeah. We were connected. We were connected to a life-supporting sustenance, our mother. Each and every one of us were connected. We were tethered to that life-giving relationship. And upon birth, that was severed. And as that relationship was severed, that sort of dial-up relationship was severed, we learned how to resonate, basically. We learned how to have connection, the ability to connect, to resonate with others. And that's Wi-Fi. So now, before it was, the connection was there. When that connection is severed, now we learn how to sort of connect by just learning to resonate with that interconnection and to stop fighting, the resisting everything. And today I heard many of you say, well, I don't have hardly any bars on my cell phone. I'm not getting any Wi-Fi reception. And so when we look at our phone and we see that there aren't enough bars, or you look at your phone and you see you have like 5 bars or whatever, you think, good connection. I have a good connection. And then you relax, right? Well, it's the same with humans. And so when we have that 5-bar connection, when we realize our like interconnection, we have a good connection, like on our cell phone, and we relax. We just relax into it. We don't have to like worry. We're not connected. We're severed, right? So I like that analogy a lot. I don't know who it was that used it first, but I stole it from someone. So when you settle down and you just actually allow yourself to be connected, to resonate in that way, it's awesome. Who knows what she's up to? She's probably collecting bugs. Bringing them over to Craig over here. So another way to talk about developing our full another way of talking about developing our full potential is to have intimacy with all things. So when we say intimacy, this is a very small group, and I love it because we are able to really have intimacy. We were able to really be with each other this weekend. If it would have been like 50 people, you would have perhaps had intimacy with 5 or 6 or maybe more, but this really lends itself to that really heart place. So a way that you know that you are truly awakening is when you feel intimacy with all beings. You don't like some and dislike others. You have intimacy. You care about. You don't have to love them all, but you care about them. You take consideration. You are considerate. All living beings are worthy of our love and respect. All. Not some, not all. All are worthy. Every single living being is worthy of our love and our respect. And that's something to really hold. So when you find yourself not loving and not respecting another human being, you're really going against humanity, all of us. So when you meet someone on the street, that person is worthy of your love and your respect. By love, I don't mean like romantic love, but you can take care to be warm and friendly with them. Even with your eyes, you don't have to even talk to them. Just sort of let the defenses down. Have you ever walked by someone who's really uncomfortable with you? And you can feel it, can't you? Gazes go low, like you avoid eye contact. But then also I've always been it's almost really fun when you're passing people and they really look into your eyes and you can tell you just connected. It just sort of feels, wow, that's nice. When you look like this, what when you look like this, people, all sorts of things happen. You know, they think you're a Hare Krishna, or my teacher Ty Kozen got his head slammed in his car door, and he suffered a brain injury where he has the inability to recognize faces. And what happened was, as he was getting out, he's a very big guy, was getting out of the car, and he bent down to get his bag, and somebody came up and slammed the car and called him, you dirty, I think it was Islam, is an Islamic. And he said, you know, thank goodness I wasn't an Islamic person. But yeah, people can be really mean. How horrible. How horrible for that.
When you said that, we all suffered.
Yeah,
Just
even hearing it. Because we're interrelated. And those things happen. You know, these things happen. And so like when, I remember the first time I started wearing robes, it was, I forget I have them on. It's me, right? It's like you are you no matter where you are, you know, in the psych ward or in, you know, on the street or in the, you know, in the temple. From the inside out, you are you. And you don't understand why people treat you differently when they treat you differently. And because you are you. But people do treat you differently. And mostly people respect people in robes, mostly. I'm finding that that's becoming less and less true as our country becomes more and more afraid. And so it doesn't make me cocoon away, but I'd find that I'm more careful, and it's always good to go in twos, you know, things like that. Me and Stellar. So I'm going to get closer to ending this teaching tonight because we've taken in far too much. So we've understand that one way of explaining our full potential is to expect nothing, to appreciate everything. Another way of looking at that is having intimacy with all things, with all living beings. And another way to look at that is, so in the Zen scriptures it says, what you see in front of you, whatever you see in front of you right now, and your very existence in this present moment as being who you are, is a complete expression of reality. So we're looking for the true, clear seeing of what is real. But the truth is, at this moment, right in front of us, existing as we are with what we have right now, if we are able to know that, it's a complete example of what reality really is. There's nothing missing. You're thinking, well, wait, I never even learned how to meditate, right? But if you could tap in to the now, as you are, whatever's going on in front of you, this is a complete example of reality. It's nothing more. It's not like shiny halos and sparkles in the air. It's not that. It's just this. Just now. That's all there is. You don't have to look. You have it. It's there. So it's called clear seeing. Clear seeing. Sharon Salzberg says that it is trusting your deepest experience. Trusting it. So in your deepest experience, you're thinking, you know, I really care about Craig. I'm going to trust that. I trust that deepest experience. I'm not going to try to figure it out in my thoughts. I'm just going to trust it. Doesn't mean I have to get married to him. It means I can let myself believe that Craig's qualities are worth trusting. I trust that. I trust that completely. But it's trusting in your own experience, how you experience things. So if you experience things as separate and you trust that, then you're going against the other truths, right? So you have to trust your deep experiences, but you need to keep, it's like if you're reading music, you have to keep it in the scales. You can't just be way over here somewhere, because we don't know that note. You have to keep it within the scales. So the scales are those truths, and then our experiences are the notes. And if they're within the scale, you can trust it, and it will grow and deepen. The tone will be beautiful. You have to trust your deepest experience. So it talks a little bit about faith, just letting go of thinking and allowing, welcoming, allowing, welcoming your experience and Gina's experience, all experiences, just letting go, not attached to what you prefer. This is a hard one. We're so attached to what we prefer. Even our beliefs. So I want to stop there. That's enough. We're going to do some deep relaxation. I'm going to try to stay in the scale. Oh, yeah. And I will, my wish is that we all meet again, and that it might not even be so many years, maybe next year. That would be great. I want to continue to be with you. And I hope that what you took in this weekend, you'll grow and blossom and water. And you can always email me. And, Cleo has my email. And also, I really love handwritten letters. People hardly ever write them anymore, and I like to write them back. So I actually love to write letters. Do you know what I mean? It's so nice because you get to think about it. And you write, no, not that, And so it's actually quite thoughtful. And whereas when you're just emailing or texting, it's just sort of momentary, isn't it? And sometimes it's almost embarrassing because you press send before you actually reread it or even rethought about it just to get to the next one. So it's like slowing down. And so if you want to, you can write down my address. And you just put as the name, my name, they call me Suko, which means none, S-U-C-O. So it's Suko. And they call me Chodron. So they put the R back in my name because I actually do have that R in my name. It's a long, complicated thing why I took it out, but there are two of us, two Lindup Chodrons. And so I took my R out so we wouldn't constantly send mail to the wrong people. And then upon doing that, I became known as Chodron. So you're the one without the R, right? So, but my real name is Suko Chodron, C-H-O-D-R-O-N, Chodron. And my address is 46 Stoller, S-T-O-L-L-E-R. Somebody will give that to you. Road. And the name of the town I live in is called Trout Lake. Trout Lake, and then Washington. And the zip code is 98650. 98650. And they bring it just down to our mailbox, and it gives me a reason to pedal my bike down to the mailbox.
Now, the Mount Adam Zen Temple?
Yeah.
Is this the same address?
Yep, the Mount Adam Zen Temple is the name of the Buddhist temple. So if people are if you made out a check, then that money can go to the temple. And, it's like, for me, it's great. I mean, yeah.
Tell us, if you wouldn't mind telling when we're starting, about how this all kind of came to be with the temple, and then the opposition, and then...
Oh, yeah. When there were two people who decided their dream was to have a retreat center, and they decided to put their monies together, the Druid priest and the Zen monk. And, they had these positions, like one was administrator at a hospital, like a big hospital, and one was, they had lots of dollars. And so they put their money together and actually bought this piece of land and turned it in, very visionary, turned it into a retreat center. But there was a lot of opposition to Zen and Druidry in a rural community up in Washington. So it's not a necessarily conservative community, but they're tight. You know what I mean? And so when someone comes in, you're a stranger, and you can't trust strangers like that, and plus you're weird strangers. And so my teacher, Tai Kozin, he is such a hugely generous man. He's always giving. And with generosity, he really wore them down over the years. He's constantly extending himself with the Trail Angels and all these different things. We offer scholarships at the high school, and each student got a scholarship, and they don't have to spend it in a certain way. They could buy bonbons if they wanted. They just all received a scholarship. And after doing that for 5 years, this is the first year they actually said our name out loud at the graduation. So finally, and then right before I left, we received a $10,000 check from a neighbor. We didn't know who it was, from someone. And they said, "This is for your temple. We really, really appreciate what you're doing to this community and for this community. We support you." And then we had to figure out who it was, but it was one of our neighbors, and one neighbor that was very oppositional. So over time, when you are kind and generous, regardless if people are kind and generous back, you just sort of wear people down. And kind and generous is watered and comes out. So I'm very happy to come into that community having had that path already laid. And so when I show up and they say, "Oh, are you a part of the," and they oftentimes don't remember what the name is. I said, yeah, that's us. The Abbey. Yes, the Abbey. I brought my mom out there. And I'm like, yeah, it's great, isn't it? It's a destination. People bring their relatives to see. Come and see this. It's beautiful. And we're very welcoming. We serve you tea and take you on a tour and make sure you're happy. Invite.
Can I ask, how did you go from Madison to that place?
So I came from Portland and I went to Madison.
Oh, okay.
And in Portland, I led retreats at the Trout Lake Abbey. So I met Tai Kozin the second year when he, so like you found Bishop's Lodge, you're looking for a venue to have a retreat. We were looking for a venue in Portland to have a retreat. It's about a little over an hour outside of Portland. That's in Washington, on the other side of the river. And it was, it was perfect. And so then, I kept a relationship with Tai Kozin. And he's followed me through my higher ordination as a bhikshuni in the Zen tradition. He was really happy to have me come out there and teach me about Zen. I asked him if he'd be my teacher, and he said, "Yes, if you'll be my teacher." That's a great answer, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
And what that means is when I really anger him, he has to take a look at his anger, and that way I teach him. Because believe me, I anger him quite often.
I told you. Can you spell Tai Kozin, please, for me?
THAY